This episode of Moontower Business is brought to you by your local State Farm agent, Alejandra de la Torre. Alejandra's team has amazing customer service, knowledgeable staff, and super competitive pricing. They also have a very convenient location in Round Rock, located at 2200 North A.W. Grimes Boulevard, Suite 500. Alejandra's team is bilingual, and they have over 52 years of combined experience in the insurance industry. Alejandra's team is very friendly and helpful, and they always go the extra mile. They even have after-hours emergency availability. So please call Alejandra's State Farm team for all of your insurance needs, whether it's auto, home, life, or business. Their telephone number is 512-244-3311, or you can see their website at www.alexdelatore.net. Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the Moontower Business Podcast. This is your host, Joseph Obel, and today I'm speaking to Don Vo, who is the CEO of Vbit Technologies. Don, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you, Joe?
Doing great. Thanks for coming on the podcast. And I'm looking forward to kind of jumping into this, but maybe we can get started by, you can just tell listeners a little bit about your background and experiences before you launched Vbit Technologies.
Okay, awesome. I'll just jump right into it. So I am a first-generation immigrant. My family came from Vietnam. I actually grew up in the projects of the South Bronx, so it was a pretty rough neighborhood. But I was blessed enough to have my parents buy me my first computer at around the age of 13. And I was just so curious about how it worked, took it apart, put it back together, learned how to program it. And then it turned into my first business that I launched, which is a computer, basically just putting computers together and selling it on eBay. Started as an eBay business. By the time I was 15, I had a successful exit of a little over $1.6 million from that, and was able to kind of help my family get out of the projects into, like a little bit of a better neighborhood. Of course, it's kind of like a blessing in disguise, but yet a curse in disguise as well, because I was a bit too young. I didn't really know how to manage my money correctly, went through a lot of, ups and downs, and then lost it all by the time I was 17, before I, launched my next business, which was a reverse auction business platform online. Within a few months, I was approached by a German company who purchased that platform off of me for $100,000, and later on they took it and they turned it into a $190 million company. So I was kind of kicking myself a little bit there. I was then after that, I just became a investor in the stock market, learned how to day trade and invest here and there before finding Vbit Technologies, which is what I'm doing right now.
That's awesome. So, I mean, you said at a young age, you got a computer and you started tinkering with it and kind of figuring it out and learning how to work with computers, and you started that business. I guess at such a young age, what kind of gave you the bug to get into entrepreneurship and actually turn kind of your hobby or the thing you're interested into a business?
Well, I guess even though I grew up in a rough neighborhood, I guess that was also a blessing in disguise, because it really gave me the motivation of like, oh, you either basically live there and die there, or you kind of have to give yourself that self-motivation and light that fire to go out and find a way for you to kind of like escape that environment that you're currently in.
Gotcha. So you got the motivation from your upbringing.
Yes.
So that's great. So Vbit Technologies, we'll get into it in just a second, but can you tell listeners a little bit about how you learned about Bitcoin? I guess when that was approximately, and then what kind of resources did you use to kind of learn about Bitcoin and figure it out? Because I mean, obviously it's a very complex subject with a lot of moving parts. And what did you read and to learn all about that?
Well, actually, I first learned about Bitcoin through my wife. She used to manage the foreign currency exchange at the Philadelphia International Airport one day. And this was back in pretty early 2010. So right at the starting days of Bitcoin itself, she had a client who passed by and asked her if she ever heard of Bitcoin. And she said no. And he's like, look into it. It's going to be, the biggest thing in a few years from now. So she went home that night and she told me, hey, have you ever heard of Bitcoin? And of course, I had no idea what Bitcoin was. That's the first time I'm hearing about it. She's like, this guy says it's going to be the next biggest thing. Why don't we look into it? I read so I went online, I read the white paper. I thought, it was a great idea. And I thought, it has the potential to, have some legs. But the problem is there was too many moving parts that had too many moving pieces of the puzzle that has to fall into place in order for this to take off. So like anything else, I'm like, and those moving, pieces of the puzzles was really big moving pieces of the puzzles. So I think great idea, but more likely than not, it's not going to work out, right? And my wife was like, why don't we just put a few $100s into this and see where it goes from there? At worst case, you're just losing a few $100s. And I'm like, well, more likely than not, it's going to fail. So if I put in a few $100s, I could have taken that and get a really nice dinner. So I went against her idea there, but at that time I remember we were able to purchase it for I believe it was 0.40 and then 5 of a cent for one Bitcoin.
Oh wow!
Substantially low price. Had I listened to her and just put in like $100, it would have turned into over $1 billion right now. And but everything happens for a reason, right? It did bring, awareness to me about Bitcoin. And I saw the gradual increase in price. I saw, it go through the crypto bull markets, the bear markets, the huge volatility, the price crashes. And I didn't start to seriously think about putting money into there until the 2013, 2012, 2013 bull market cycle. But I felt prices were, climbing a little bit too high. So I waited for a correction and I finally, pulled the trigger in 2015 around $260 or so. And from there, I kept on following up on it. And I was really a firm believer from then.
That's great. And so, that's, I mean, you followed basically from the start. 2009 is when it got started. And so you you got to see it, go up and down all throughout these years. Mm-hmm. What was it like during those crazy times to kind of follow it during like 2013 and then like 2016?
Well, when, during those time periods, most people don't even know what Bitcoin is, right? I was one of the lucky few people who were aware of it. And whenever I asked my friends, hey, have you ever heard of Bitcoin? What do you think about it? They're all like, what is virtual money? What, I don't even know what that is. So it sounds like it's a scam. Stay away from it. And I'm like, I don't really think it's a scam because I saw it go from under a penny to until when it made it to the dollar to $1, and then to the time when it's $10. Of course, in between, it had its fluctuations and volatility where it dropped, 70, 80% on multiple occasions. So I lied. Let me take it back a little bit. Even prior to 2015, I did dabble with it in 2012. I remember I purchased it. I don't remember the exact price, but I purchased it for just like a few dollars. And immediately 2 days later, it dropped by more than 50%. And I'm like, I just lost half my money. let me get out of here. And I immediately sold. I sold. I took the loss. And then the next week, it came back even higher than the price point that I bought in at. And I'm like, Wow, this is a crazy ride, but maybe this is, like the starting point of that next bull market cycle. Let me buy in again. So I bought in again, and then 2 weeks later, it took another 40% drop, and I got scared. I sold again. So I did fall into that, volatility trap as well and that's when I decided to kind of like just monitor the market a little bit to get a better understanding before I really dived into the deep end.
Yeah, I mean, I got in, I guess it was the summer of 2020 for the first time. I just learned about it. But even then, after kind of it already, taking off and having a lot more, adoption, it was difficult then. I can just imagine what it was like doing that in 2013, 2014, 2015. It was just a completely different time frame. Mm-hmm. So you launched Vbit Technologies. Was it in 2018?
Yes, in early 2018. So I approached my business partners and co-founders at the beginning of February 2018, and we officially launched our company in April of 2018.
Gotcha. So can you kind of just give a little summary, 2-3 sentence summary of what your company does to listeners, so just kind of give a understanding what's going on?
Mm-hmm. So our core product is we sell Bitcoin mining equipment, and we also have data centers. We currently operate 3 data centers in Montana, Colorado, and Calgary, Canada, that host the mining hardware that our company sells.
Excellent. I want to go into details on this in just a minute, but before we move forward to that, for listeners that are not they're lay people, don't understand Bitcoin mining and how it works. Can you just kind of give a little quick 101? You don't have to go into a lot of detail, but just generally how it works and how Bitcoin's mined every day.
Mm-hmm. So Bitcoin mining is pretty simple, right? If you think about the U.S. dollar, you have the government issuing the U.S. dollar, and then the banks are responsible for distributing it and keeping the accounting work of making sure everyone's balances are correct in their bank accounts. So with Bitcoin, there's no centralized entity. There's no central entity, issuing the currency, and there's no central entity responsible for keeping track of everyone's account balances. That's the responsibility of the Bitcoin miners. So as these, so you can think of the Bitcoin mining computers, they're just processing the transactions that goes through the Bitcoin network. So if I'm sending you $100, the machine is just saying, hey, take $100 from my Bitcoin wallet address, put it into your Bitcoin wallet address, and put it into the Bitcoin ledger. And in return for that, the Bitcoin miners, they get compensated transaction fees, just like if you used a credit card to buy coffee at Starbucks, even though you're paying Starbucks, but the Visa or MasterCard gets a portion of those, the transaction fees as well. So that's the process of Bitcoin mining. All it is keeping track of people's account balances on the Bitcoin ledger, and in return, they get paid in transaction fees and also a block of new Bitcoins that are coming out and being distributed in each block. And that's how the Bitcoin blockchain actually distributes the currency until the full 21 million has been mined out.
Gotcha. And so it's my understanding that whenever, like, say, for example, like you just kind of give a quick example, like say I'm sending you $100 and for that transaction to take place on the blockchain, when I initiate that transaction, my understanding is there's some type of kind of randomized set of numbers or characters that is issued. And then the computer that guesses whatever that number is actually gets to confirm that transaction and make that transaction on the blockchain. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. So basically, the Bitcoin blockchain is always spitting out a very, hard algorithm. So all of these computers, they're just spitting out random answers at a very fast pace. And whichever computer gets the correct answer, they get the opportunity to confirm all of the transactions within that block, and they get all of the rewards.
Gotcha. So you started in 2018. I guess what inspired you to launch a Bitcoin mining company?
So one of my partners had approached me about another company that said, like they did, and I remember that company's was called WCI. And he approached me about it. He asked me, "Hey, what do you think about like this business? Should he get involved?" Because he knew that I was in the blockchain space for a while, so he just wanted my opinion. And when I looked at it, their business model, they said that they do Bitcoin mining for other people, and they also like have this magic trading bot that can magically like give people 1% like interest every day and all that kind of stuff. And as soon as you hear that, red flags like come up all over the place, right? Or at least it should come up. So I did my due diligence. I couldn't I just couldn't verify that like they were doing any of the activities they say they were doing. So that's what I told my friend and my current business partner. And I said, but their Bitcoin mining, business model, it makes sense. And I think it's going to be a good business model as long as you're doing it in a legitimate way and you're actually helping people, get involved, because it also promotes the adoption of the Bitcoin blockchain. And as more people, adopt it, the value is going to go up and everybody's going to be a happy camper, right? And that's really what sparked it. Just the idea coming from seeing there's so many, scams in the industry, and we just wanted to offer something really legitimate for people out there.
That's excellent. And it's such a unique idea. I mean, you have other Bitcoin mining companies out there like Marathon that my understanding is that they have, they just buy Bitcoin mining rigs and then mine Bitcoin, and the proceeds that come to that are like basically go on the balance sheet of the company and it benefits the shareholders, et cetera. But yours is kind of different, right? My understanding is what your company does is sells the actual Bitcoin mining rigs to consumers, and also gives a consumer the opportunity to buy a mining rig from you, and then hold that mining rig in one of your data centers, and they pay a fee to use your energy, and then they reap the rewards of the Bitcoin that's being mined from that specific machine, right?
Yes, that's correct. So actually, we have two parts to our business. Our core product is selling the Bitcoin mining computers to the end user, which that's their property. They own it. They can choose to host it with us at our data center, which would give them lower electricity prices than they can at home. Plus, it takes a lot of technical knowledge to kind of get these computers set up in the first place, and a lot of people simply just don't have that type of technical knowledge. And then the second, the second part to our company, we actually do run operations where we mine for the company as well, just like Marathon or Riot. But our business model is a little bit different because it gives us basically. Our goals is not only to mine all the Bitcoins ourselves, right? Our goal is also to promote the adoption, of Bitcoin, because that only through adoption from the mainstream is there going to be, even more profits in the Bitcoin space. But not only profits, it also, allows people to kind of take advantage of this life-changing opportunity as well, which is one of the biggest goals of that, me and my partners are working towards, and we've seen, we've literally have thousands of clients right now that have either retired from their current jobs, and just depending on the Bitcoin mining proceeds that they have grown, that in how much it has grown over time, and people who are taking it as a second source of income right now to supplement other things that they're doing.
Yeah. And, I think it's such an interesting option for people, because people that are looking into get into the space, first of all, I mean, the little research I've done on Bitcoin mining is, if you're trying to find a Bitcoin mining rig, first of all, I feel like there's a shortage, right?
Yes.
And then secondly, when you go on places like eBay or, different secondary markets to try to find a Bitcoin mining rig, you don't know what you're going to get. I mean, yes. You don't know how long it's been in use. You don't know how much life it has left in it. And then say you buy one, for example, on eBay, you get it home and then you set it up. It's not user friendly, like you mentioned. And then on top of that, I've heard it's like super loud, and you have to have it like in a certain area of the house, and it still, no matter where you are, you're still going to hear it. It's going to drain a lot of energy, and you're going to be paying energy costs. It's not going to be efficient for you to set up some type of solar panels or something like that to give energy to these Bitcoin mining rigs. And this is a great solution, right? So, I mean, I can go on your website or through your service and buy a Bitcoin mining rig. You set it up in one of your facilities. I pay you a fee, and then you worry about the energy, worry about all that stuff. And then I just get the Bitcoin coming in from the transactions, right?
Yes, that's correct. So we make it a pretty easy process, and most of what you said is true. Basically, people are just going on our websites, selecting, like the machine or the package that they want, and then they choose, like their hosting term, and then if they wanted to, they can also choose their own mining pools, or if they don't choose their own mining pools, then we'll select whichever one that we're currently getting the best like pool fees for them. So it's just making it easy for the newbies that aren't familiar with the process, but for the advanced users that are knowledgeable about like how it works, it also gives them like control if they want to control the process as well.
That's great. And so, can you talk a little bit about the Bitcoin mining rig shortage? What's the reason for that? And are we going to see anything change in the future? Are they making more? What's going on with that?
So the mining rig shortage, it has to do with the global shortage in the supply chain, because these chips are actually used in all types of different computers and other applications in other areas as well, not only in Bitcoin mining computers. And these ASIC chips, they're being produced by at the end of the day, they're being produced by TSMC. So it's the same chips that are going into the Apple iPhones, your Samsung products, your Tesla cars, like cars nowadays. They're basically all computers. So almost every single product that you're touching now in your modern life is using the same chip as the Bitcoin mining computers. And because of like the pandemic and the disruption in the global supply chain, that is really what's causing the shortage in the crypto mining equipment space, but also there's just a lot more people aware of Bitcoin mining now, and then you have big institutional players like Marathon, like Riot Blockchain that are buying like these computer equipment in bulk, in the thousands to the tens of thousands in each order. Which makes it extremely hard for just retail users, for like you and me, or just the average person to buy, like that, a one computer unit or two computer unit. So now the crypto mining space, it's really shifting. Like the dynamics are shifting. Before, at the early days of Bitcoin, anybody can participate. Anybody, can use their home computer, their desktop, their laptop to mine for Bitcoin. But as the dynamics are shifting, now it's more favoring, like the institutional players, the ones that have deeper pockets, because they're like, if you're the manufacturer, if you can like deal with just one, like one customer that is paying you, like $100 million in one order, why would you want to break it up and sell it to, like 1,000 different customers and have to deal with 1,000 different customers and their customer service issues and all that kind of stuff? So from the manufacturer's point of view, right now, the minimum order sizes are starting to become large. So we, one of our suppliers is Bitmain. We do order directly through Bitmain. Now, minimum orders are in the millions of dollars right now per order. So long gone are the days where you can go, like onto the Bitmain website and buy, like one computer directly off of the Bitmain website. And I don't see that changing within the next year or two, because there is a global shortage of ASIC chips and these just processing chips because it's utilized in basically every piece of technology that is touching our modern lives. And it's going to take a little bit of time for the manufacturer to just get their manufacturing up to speed.
That's super interesting. And also I've heard that these mining rigs, this computer equipment that's used for mining is also used for like computer gaming. So there's like a demand for it in that kind of space as well. So that contributes, I think, to the shortage, doesn't it?
Yeah, so GPU cards are used, especially the high-end GPU cards, are used for hardcore gamers and graphic-intensive games, and that has like a whole following of its own. That's like a whole space of its own. And now come in, like crypto mining, where the majority of GPUs are currently being used for mining Ethereum right now. And it's basically draining, it's taking away from the gamers because everyone, all the crypto miners are buying it, like 100 cards, 200 cards at a time, and the manufacturers can't, manufacture fast enough.
So are your Bitcoin mining services that you offer exclusive to Bitcoin, or do you do things in other cryptocurrencies like Ethereum?
So currently right now, we only focus on Bitcoin because so my philosophy is I only want to introduce products that I am pretty confident will be a long-term value to our customers. We have thought about, introducing Ethereum mining and other mining products as well. But the problem with Ethereum is it was pending, like a change from proof of work to proof of stake, like mining. And I didn't want to offer, Ethereum mining and have our customers put in thousands of dollars to get all of this equipment. And then, 6 months later, Ethereum changes to a proof of stake concept. And now their machines are, useless. Makes sense.
Can you, I saw on your website, you have like a calculator type section that kind of shows if you have, this type of Bitcoin mining machine that you buy through your company, and generally what the cost is for that, and generally of what the returns are, I guess on a daily basis, monthly basis. Can you kind of walk through like a real generic example? I won't hold you to numbers or anything, but just something real simple to explain, like, for example, one of the most simple mining rigs you have and kind of what consumers can expect from that.
Mm-hmm. So those calculators are based on current market data and current market conditions. So they fluctuate all the time depending on the price of Bitcoin, depending on the mining difficulty level, because all of those are dynamic stats that goes into Bitcoin mining. But at any time, let's say. I don't remember numbers off the top of my head because they do, change all the time. So let me just pull up something. Let me pull up the calculator. And let's say our platinum package, which is basically one whole S19 machine, right? Currently, right now, it's mining about, based on current market conditions, about $8,800 a year. And each one of these computers, they generally last anywhere between 4 to 6 years, and some of them last even more longer, depending on the market conditions. And I do see that the technology is reaching Moore's law too. So further advances in the technology is going to come at a slower pace. So these machines are going to tend to last on the longer side. But basically, through Bitcoin mining, every single day, these computers are solving blocks, processing transactions that goes through the Bitcoin network. And as a reward, every single day, these machines are given a portion, an amount of Bitcoin in return for that processing work. So let's say if you buy a machine for, let's say, $10,000, if it lasts you, like 4 to 6 years, and every single year, like you're mining about $8,000 or $7,000, you would expect to come out net positive. And based on historical data so far, Bitcoin mining has always been more profitable than just buying and holding, because buying Bitcoin, you only have two options, right? If you buy Bitcoin and you hold it, if the price goes down, you lose money. If the price goes up, then you make some money. But in Bitcoin mining difficulty level comes into play too. So generally, when Bitcoin prices drop, like in the recent correction, all of the guys with the higher electricity prices, they turn unprofitable first. So they tend to turn off their machines first. And that's why in the last two mining difficulty level adjustments, it adjusted downwards, which means that it's easier to mine Bitcoin, which means anyone who has Bitcoin miners online right now are making more Bitcoin per hash power. And so, like when Bitcoin prices go down, you're mining more Bitcoin. So it gives you a cushion against that loss. And when Bitcoin prices, goes back up, then it just magnifies your gain, because now you have more Bitcoin than what you would have had if Bitcoin prices just continue to go up, right? So historical data shows that within, like a 3 to 4 year period, if you were just mining Bitcoin as opposed to, and using that same amount of money instead of just buying and holding Bitcoin, you're going to end up with more Bitcoin at the end of a 3 to 4 year time period than what you would have gotten if you just used that same amount of money to purchase Bitcoin at the time.
You answered the question I was going to ask you just a little bit later, and I appreciate that. I was wondering how that worked with the price volatility, and how the returns would look like when you got prices going up and down. And I didn't realize that when you got prices going down, the prices of electricity are high, the number of miners are less, right? But then the people that are mining are getting bigger chunks of Bitcoin for rewards, and that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and just to make it simpler to understand for the listeners out there, think of it kind of like a gold mine, right? If you found a gold mine that has 100 nuggets of gold in there, and you're the only one who knows about it, potentially you could be getting all 100 nuggets of gold, right? But if you have 100 people going into that mine to mine for it, then each one is getting only 1 nugget of gold each person. But more people, more people are utilizing it, which means that it makes it a little harder because you fight with like the other miners to get that piece of gold, right? So the value of that piece of gold that you get increases too. So it's the same concept in Bitcoin mining. The more miners and the more people that knows about mining and Bitcoin itself, which means it translates to more people are using it, which translates to higher value and the prices of Bitcoin going up. But when Bitcoin prices go down, less people are mining because right now average electricity rate around the world is about between 12 to 13 cents per kilowatt hour, with island countries kind of like Japan averaging around 24 cents per kilowatt hour, right? So when Bitcoin prices drop, those guys are going to turn off their machines first because nobody wants to lose money. If you're paying more money in electricity to keep these machines running than you're getting from the mining process, why are you keeping them on, right? It just doesn't make sense.
Absolutely.
So that's how it works.
That's interesting stuff. Question for you. So say I buy a mining rig through Vbit Technologies. First of all, I guess are all your machines new? And then the second question is, say I have a mining rig and I'm using it through one of your data centers. And let's just say 2 years in, there's an issue that needs to be maintained. There has to be something goes wrong with it. How does that work?
So yes, all of the machines that we sell to customers are brand new, and we haven't used them, or we're not resellers of machines that are used. So all of them are new, and that very good question there, because a lot of people think that oh, it's, like I'm just plugging in this machine and it's going to run forever for me, right? It's never going to break down or anything like that. So I don't need to allocate any money for maintenance or anything like that. But in reality, just like every piece of machine, just like your car, right? You use it, eventually things are going to break down and it's going to cost money to fix and everything like that. So, and we understand that most of our client base and most people walking into the Bitcoin mining space right now, they're new to it, and they don't, and obviously they're not familiar with the process. They don't know how to fix it themselves. They don't know, like what types of cost goes in there or anything like that. To make it easy for them, we kind of bundled everything into our hosting prices too. So if you're hosting your machines at our data centers, where, we already priced in, like the cost of repairs, maintenance, and everything like that. So if your computer breaks down 2 years down the line, if we can't fix it, we actually replace it with a new one for you, because this industry is pretty small, right? Everybody still knows everybody in this industry right now, and one of the reasons why we did that is because our other competitors, they're getting hit, like they basically just sell the computers and they host it, and customers are just expecting it to run forever. And when they have to call the customer, maybe 6 months down the line or a year down the line, say, hey, like one of your hash boards burned out. Do you want to repair it? And you got to pay us, like $500 or $1,000 to repair that hash board. It just catches the customers by surprise. And most of the times, because they're not familiar with the process, they didn't allocate for these type of, hidden costs. So we wanted to make it a little bit easier. So we just offer everything all in one simple package.
That's excellent. Yeah, I've heard exactly what you were talking about before. So I was just curious how y'all handled it. And that's really good. So next, can you kind of just generally give a quick description of your data centers, kind of just generally the size, the locations, and approximately number of rigs you have in each location?
Mm-hmm. So we have 3 different data centers, one in Colorado, one in Calgary, Canada, and one in Montana. So our Montana one is 100% powered by hydroelectricity. It's a 3.8 megawatt data center. Currently, right now, there is roughly about 1,100 rigs, running in there. And it's also expandable. We're currently working with the power utility right now to expand the power capacity there, and because according to building plans, we're able to build out another 3 buildings, the exact size of what we have right there. So we're currently working with the power provider right there. In Calgary, it's using flared gas. It's using excess gas that is just seeping out of the ground, that the gas provider has to pay someone to come in to kind of flare it off, and that causes the same emissions into the air anyway, if it's used or not used. So instead of just putting it to waste, we went in and we purchased those power contracts, and we take that natural gas and turn it into electricity to power our data center up there. And that data center is actually expandable to 200 megawatts. And there are thousands of machines running up there right now. And we still have another, I believe, about 4,000 machines set to be delivered to that data center within the next 2 months or so. And then in Colorado, which is kind of our data center where we utilize to kind of test different setups and test different firmware into our rigs. So it's more of a testing facility for us right there. Yep.
That's awesome. I mean, that's exciting stuff. And you got a lot going on there for those 3 facilities. There's been a pretty big debate kind of in the media and online about Bitcoin mining and renewable energy. being used for Bitcoin mining. I guess what do you think the future looks like in that space? I mean, I guess, do you know kind of generally the percentage of Bitcoin mining, overall all over the world that uses renewable energy? And then what kind of stuff are we going to see in the future? I mean, we're looking at El Salvador. They're talking about doing mining with thermo energy from a volcano. Like, what kind of stuff like that are we going to look at in the future?
So actually, a lot of the mining in North America is already utilizing green energy. We have a lot of big data center hosting providers right now that are using hydroelectric already. Our facilities that we're using for mining in the U.S. is 100% powered by hydroelectric. I know Core Scientific, which is another major data center like a Bitcoin mining operator. The majority of their facilities and their facilities are utilizing hundreds of megawatts of power right now. It's pretty much all hydroelectric as well. So everything, in North America, it's already pretty green. Yes, of course, there is still coal power that is being utilized, but I see that there's going to be, in North America anyway, there's going to be, a shift coming really soon. And especially the bulk of, non-green, Bitcoin mining is actually being done in China, which it's a good thing that the Chinese government is starting to crack down on it as well. So I think in the next year to 2 years, you're going to see a big shift in the power usage and how much greener the Bitcoin mining industry will be. In like I said, in North America, everything's the bulk of it is already pretty green. It's just China is the problematic space, and they're starting to address it right now as well.
That's interesting. It's going to nice to see how it plays out, and I'm assuming that with it, Bitcoin mining turning more green, people are going to warm up to buying Bitcoin and getting into that space much easier.
Mm-hmm. And being that Tesla also operate a solar panel company, I would not be surprised to hear Elon Musk tweeting pretty soon, hey, we're starting a Bitcoin mining data center that's going to be 100% solar powered through out of the solar panels that we produce.
I suspect you're right on that point. So what does the competition look like for you? I know there's other companies similar that offer similar services. I think Compass is one of them. What does your market look like right now? And what does your competition look like?
So honestly, I don't feel that, there is really competition, right? Because the Bitcoin mining space is set up in a way where anybody can join it as well. And we're doing different things than, Compass is. Compass is just a straight, a machine reseller, as well as just a hosting provider, but they don't offer all of the different, repair services in there because they want to make, their prices look as cheap as possible. But then, I feel it's not fair to the end consumer, right? Because most of these people coming into the Bitcoin mining space, they're not aware of all of the costs that goes into it, and they're going to get hit by surprise. Then, they don't do proper, education about the deviation of, the hash powers, just like any other computer, right? Like, let's say your laptop computer, even though the manufacturer says it's going to run at 2.4 gigahertz speed, it doesn't mean that it's going to always run at 2.4 gigahertz. Sometimes, it might be 2 gigahertz. Sometimes it might be a little faster. The 2.4 is just the average over the lifespan, the long term, right? So there's a lot of education that has to, go into the Bitcoin mining space right now. That's something different that we're trying to do. We're trying to promote more education of the blockchain space of how Bitcoin mining works, and we want to, we're working towards being more transparent of, all the different cost structures, and just trying to look out for, the end user so that they don't get caught, by surprise by any, repair costs or hidden cost that comes up later on.
Gotcha, man. That's interesting stuff. Don, I've taken a lot of your time today. I appreciate you. I got some a couple final questions for you to wrap up here. We got some big news recently in El Salvador. The country passing a law making Bitcoin official currency, along with the U.S. dollar in their country. What are your thoughts on that, and what are we going to see in the future? Are we going to see a domino effect, do you think, from that?
I definitely think that there will be a domino effect. Like they're the first. I think all of the major countries like the U.S., China, they're going to monitor it very closely and see like how El Salvador's economy evolves with the adoption of Bitcoin. And I think all of the emerging countries are going to watch very closely as well. I wouldn't be surprised to see within like the next couple of years there's going to be more and more emerging countries. So the emerging countries are always going to be the front movers, right? Because there's a need for them to like adopt Bitcoin because they don't have a strong currency like the US dollar or like the Chinese yuan. So Bitcoin is kind of like their salvation spot, right? For them to do, like international trade where they won't, where they won't get killed on the exchange rate, because the exchange rate for Bitcoin is going to be the same everywhere around the world. So I'm expecting to see a huge domino effect. I'm expecting to see emerging countries being, the front runners. They're going to adopt it first. And as the U.S. government sees that Bitcoin becomes more stable with mainstream adoption, they're going to start to, cozy up, and they're going to start to, introduce friendlier regulations. And hey, maybe one day even recognize it as legal tender, right? Especially since the U.S. is always against being left behind and everything. They always want to be a part of the action and be a leader in the action. So they're going to find some way to eventually catch up and then be leading the action in the Bitcoin space.
Totally agree with you, and it's also interesting how their law is. When somebody buys Bitcoin or uses Bitcoin in El Salvador, and then they exchange it to US dollars, there's no capital gains tax on that. I feel like that's a big piece of it. And I feel like there might be a lot of companies really considering moving over there to take have a benefit of that tax break.
I really agree with you right there.
Awesome. Well, Don, final question for you before I let you go. What would you say is kind of your favorite book, or a book that made a big impact on you in your life?
So I have read Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki quite a few times, and it did help me kind of change my thought process about how things should be, financially. And for those of the listeners that haven't read that book yet, great go-to book, great beginner book into the world of finance. I've probably read it at least 11 or 12 times already, because each time I read it, there's little nuggets that I pick up that I haven't picked up the last time reading it, and it just totally shifted my mindset.
That's awesome. I haven't read it yet, and I want to check that out. Thank you for that. And I guess to wrap up here, how can listeners learn more about you and learn more about Vbit Technologies online?
So our website is vbitmining.com, but we are also on Facebook, Twitter. Our Twitter handle is at Vbit_tech. And also I'm on Twitter as well. My handle is at Don Vbit. Please, anyone who wants to find out more information or ask me any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter as well.
Excellent. Don, thank you so much for joining. Listeners, please, I encourage you to take a look at Vbit Technologies. If you're interested in Bitcoin mining, please utilize their services.
Awesome.
This episode is brought to you by our affiliate Gemini. Gemini is a well-respected cryptocurrency exchange started by Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss. If you're interested in purchasing Bitcoin, Ethereum, or other altcoins, please check out their website at gemini.sjv.io/Moontower to learn all about it. Thank you.